What if the gods of Japanese mythology were not gods at all, but real kings? A line passed down within one family reads, "Our ancestors came from a land where animals with long noses live." This single line has been passed down within one family, generation after generation, all the way to the present day. The origins of the Japanese people remain shrouded in mystery. The oldest surviving historical records date to the 7th and 8th centuries CE. Before that, no written sources were thought to exist. In recent years, however, something has changed. Ancient families, clans who trace their lineage back thousands of years, have begun to reveal the oral traditions that were kept strictly secret within their bloodlines. What those traditions describe is extraordinary. A forgotten ancestry, a lost kingdom that once existed on the Japanese archipelago. In later centuries, that kingdom was erased from history. Only its shadow survived, preserved as mythology. And within the pantheon of Japanese gods, the name of that kingdom's king was enshrined. His name, Oku-ni-Nushi, master of the great land. Strange echoes of language and culture, reaching across vast distances, lend weight to these accounts. Mythos Japan explores myths, legends, and folklore not as fiction, but as memories humanity left behind to face and dialogue with an unknowable world. Did ancient Indians reach Japan? The memory of a lost kingdom in Japanese myth. Izumo Kuden number 2. In the previous episode, Mythology or History, the forgotten ethnic conflicts of ancient Japan, we introduced the fact that Japan's two oldest official histories, the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki, were for a long time the only sanctioned historical accounts. Recording history outside these texts was strictly forbidden by the state. Remarkably, that prohibition continued into the modern era. The reason is this: history was written as a mythology of kingship to legitimize the ruling dynasty. Now that this mythology of power is no longer needed, something remarkable is happening. The descendants of those who lost the ancient struggle for dominance have begun to speak. They are sharing traditions passed down in absolute secrecy for more than 2,000 years. Among these, one oral tradition stands out. Historians are actively examining it today. It is known as the Izumo Kuden, the oral tradition preserved by the Izumo clan. It begins with a single line. Our ancestors came from a land where animals with long noses live. Japan has no animals with long noses. No elephants. So where does this phrase point? A country roughly 7,000 kilometers from the Japanese archipelago, India. This oral tradition, it turns out, carries the memory of a people who left India more than 4,000 years ago and made their way to the Japanese islands. According to the tradition, they brought with them the technologies of rice cultivation and iron working. A book entitled The Origins of the Japanese People by geneticist Naraya Saito maps the estimated waves of migration to Japan using DNA data. It identifies a wave of migrants from between circa 2400 BCE and 1000 BCE, whose origins remain unclear. This window aligns strikingly with the migration described in the oral tradition. Here, then, is the account of their origins as preserved in the oral tradition. Around 3000 to 2000 BCE, in what is now the state of Madhya Pradesh in central India, a small kingdom called Kuna was ruled by King Kunato of the Dravidian people. Watching as wars broke out among neighboring kingdoms, Kunato resolved to lead his people in a great migration. The destination was revealed by merchants of the Buyut people, who operated wide-ranging trade networks centered on Lake Baikal. They spoke of a warm, sparsely populated island far to the east, beyond the ocean. That island was the Japanese archipelago. Their words proved accurate. At that time, the Japanese islands were indeed extraordinarily thinly populated. Human presence on the archipelago stretches back tens of thousands of years to the Paleolithic era. The people of this early period are known as the Jomon. But around 5300 BCE, a submarine volcano to the south of Kyushu triggered a catastrophic eruption, the Kikai caldera eruption. So devastating was the blast that volcanic ash fell as far as the Tohoku region, northeastern Japan, over 1,000 kilometers away. The Jomon people of western Japan were, it is believed, almost entirely wiped out. King Kunato's Kuna clan, numbering in the thousands, chose a route that was long and brutal, but deliberate. Skirting north of the Gobi Desert, descending the Amur River in Siberia by raft, passing through Hokkaido, they finally landed on the Tsugaru Peninsula in the Tohoku region. The total route covered an estimated 10,000 to 12,000 kilometers. This arduous northern detour was chosen specifically to avoid conflict with other peoples. The journey likely spanned many generations, perhaps dozens of generations. The Tohoku region they arrived in was already home to indigenous peoples, believed to include the Ainu and the Buyut. The Kuna clan settled among them for a time, intermingling and intermarrying. The oral tradition holds that traces of this Tohoku settlement survive in the archaeological record at Sanai Maruyama, a major Jomon period site in present-day Aomori Prefecture, active circa 3900 to 2300 BCE. Then, around 2100 BCE, a period of rapid cooling set in. Over more generations, the clan began moving southward. Their final destination, the place where they chose to settle permanently, was what is now Shimane Prefecture. They called it Izumo. The reason was clear. The He River, which runs through the region, yielded an abundance of high-quality iron sand. For a people who possessed iron-working technology, it was an ideal location. And so, built upon iron and rice, one of Japan's earliest kingdoms, the Kingdom of Izumo, came into being around 700 BCE. This date aligns broadly with the beginning of the Yayoi period, circa 800 BCE to 250 CE, the archaeological era defined by the advent of rice cultivation and metal production on the Japanese archipelago. The Izumo-ku-den preserves this history of migration in remarkable detail. Izumo is still known today as the home of the Izumo Taisha, one of Japan's most celebrated Shinto shrines. The shrine building that stands today is a later reconstruction, but ancient traditions record that the original structure was the tallest building in all of Japan. Enshrined within it is a deity named Oku-ni-Nushi, meaning Master of the Great Land. In fact, the name Izumo appears within Japan's official mythology itself. In the myths, Izumo is described as the land where Susanoo, the storm deity of the heavenly gods, known as the Amatsu-kami, first descended to earth. Oku-ni-Nushi is his son-in-law, counted among the earthly gods, the Kunitsu-kami. Many stories survive about Oku-ni-Nushi. They describe how, through his endeavors alongside his companion Sukuna-biko-na, a small deity who served as his partner in the work of building the land, Japan was cultivated and the country was made. But then something strange occurs. Other heavenly gods descend upon him. They demand that he surrender the land he has developed. Oku-ni-Nushi ultimately agrees to yield the land to the heavenly gods, on one condition, that a great shrine be built as his dwelling. This episode is known as the myth of the land cession. The shrine built as the condition of that cession is said to be the Izumo Taisha. Japanese mythology thus portrays the gods of Izumo and Oku-ni-Nushi above all as great builders of the land who ultimately submitted to the heavenly gods. But pause for a moment. A king who surrenders his kingdom in exchange for a house. It is unlike anything in any recorded history of any era, of any nation. Why does the myth tell it this way? The oral tradition offers an explanation. The heavenly gods, the Amatsu-kami, represent a separate power, a people of different origin from the Izumo clan. They gradually won dominance over the Japanese archipelago. The kingdom of Izumo slowly lost its authority. Rather than depict this as conquest and war, the tradition encoded it in the symbolic language of myth. That is the myth of the land cession. And the divine Oku-ni-Nushi, the tradition tells us, was modeled on a real king, a man who lived in the 3rd century BCE, during the height of the kingdom of Izumo. His given name was Yachihoko. His official title was Onamochi, meaning great name holder. The name Oku-ni-Nushi was his honorific. The kingdom of Izumo operated under a dual kingship system. The senior king held the title Onamochi, while the junior king was known as Sukunahiko. It is this junior king, the historical Sukunahiko, who became the model for the mythological Sukuna-biko-na. These names, Yachihoko and Onamochi, are recorded today as alternative names for Oku-ni-Nushi. They survive in shrines and historical records across Japan. The release of the oral tradition has shed new light on why this one figure came to be known by so many names. The oral tradition paints a vivid picture of the Izumo people and their Indian ancestry. But can it be taken seriously? Is there independent evidence that their forebears truly came from India and built an ancient kingdom here? In fact, one scholar had been wrestling with precisely this question long before the Izumo-ku-den became public. His name was Susumu Ono, one of Japan's foremost linguists. Ono identified a striking number of parallels between Japanese and Tamil, an ancient language of the Dravidian language family still spoken across southern India and Sri Lanka today. He published his findings as a rigorous, detailed body of research. The scope of the correspondences he identified is specific. Approximately 500 matching vocabulary items, more than 20 matching grammatical terms, and shared structural features in what Japanese linguistics calls kakurimisubi, a distinctive system of syntactic concord between a particle and the final verb form of a clause. Among the vocabulary parallels, one category is particularly compelling: words in Japanese for animals that do not exist in Japan. The archaic Japanese word kissa for elephant, the word wani for crocodile, word tora for tiger. None of these animals are native to Japan, yet all three exist in Japanese as independent ancient words. They are not borrowings from Chinese or Korean. Ono found that all of them can be traced to Tamil roots. For instance, the Tamil word vani, meaning crocodile. Also noteworthy is a shared poetic structure. Japan's oldest surviving tanka, a short lyric poem,
役も立つ、出雲八重垣、妻込に八重垣作る、その八重垣を。
contains the place name Izumo within its lines. The oral tradition holds that this oldest of tanka was composed by the Izumo people themselves. The 5-7-5 syllabic rhythm that defines Japanese poetry corresponds remarkably to Tamil verse forms as well. Correspondences are particularly concentrated in vocabulary relating to metalworking, grain production, weaving, ritual, and taboo. One example stands above the rest. The word tatara, the Japanese term for a traditional iron smelting furnace. In ancient Tamil, tatara means intense fire, precisely the process at the heart of iron production. This aligns directly with the oral tradition's claim that the Izumo people carried iron working technology with them. It suggests that when they introduced these technologies and practices, their words for them came too. The parallels extend beyond language. The megalithic period of Tamil civilization, circa 1000 BCE to 300 CE, shares a striking cluster of features with Yayoi period Japan. A burial tradition combining stone tombs and ceramic funerary urns. Similarly shaped artifacts. Comparable symbols incised on pottery and burial urns. Rice cultivation and New Year harvest festivals. The similarities are remarkable. From genetics, DNA analysis of rice varieties has established that the strain known as Tropical Japonica was introduced to Japan from India, and archaeology has produced direct evidence of a major power in the Izumo region. In 1984, excavations at the Kojundani site in Izumo unearthed 358 bronze swords, believed to date to around the 1st century BCE, the largest single-site discovery of bronze swords in Japanese history. Then in 1996, the nearby Kamoi Wakura site yielded 39 bronze bells, known as Tataku, again the largest single-site discovery of its kind. Together, these finds confirm that a substantial power once held sway in this region. The cumulative weight of this evidence is beginning to cast new light on a history that has long been told only as myth. The name Izumo is still beloved today. It appears in everything from local soba noodles to place names throughout Shimane Prefecture. The oral tradition preserves an account of how the name came to be. It derives from Izume, meaning the sprouting bud. The bud that pushes through. Imagine it. The Gobi Desert. The frozen wastes of Siberia. The open sea. At the end of a journey spanning 10,000 kilometers and countless generations, what the ancestors of the Izumo people saw when they arrived here was green growth, budding life, and it is said that the sight of it was beautiful beyond words. They named their kingdom not after a conquest, but after a vision of beauty. That alone speaks volumes about who these people were and what they had endured. And the man who led them, the founding king Kunato, did not disappear from memory either. His name survives today as Kunato no Okami, a mysterious ancient deity enshrined at various shrines across Japan. An ancient faith that enshrined ancestors as gods. A memory etched into the very names of the divine that may trace the footsteps of a real people across 4,000 years. Today we have explored the possibility that the kingdom of Izumo, founded by a people of Indian origin, was one of Japan's earliest kingdoms. The great deeds attributed to Okuni Nushi in mythology may be read as a mythologized account of the real achievements of the Izumo people. The cultivation of the land and the building of communities. And as the myth of the land cession tells us, the kingdom of Izumo was erased from history. But its end gave rise to yet another myth. The oldest dragon-slaying story in Japan. The legend of Yamata no Orochi. And in that myth, a familiar figure reappears. Susanoo, the heavenly god who first descended to the land of Izumo. In the next episode, we will use the Izumo people's ancient serpent faith as our key to unlock deciphering the serpent. The real identity of Japan's most famous dragon, Izumo Kuden No. 3. We hope you will join us. This has been Mythos Japan. What aspects of this story stayed with you? Is it the journey itself, the language, the archaeology, or something else entirely? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this compelling, please subscribe and leave a like.